Hi, thank you for joining me in this webinar where I'm going to be talking about a subject that I'm quite passionate about, customer success in growth and long tail markets. So let's get straight into it. Building loyalty, as we know, has been harder than ever before. So many choices as consumers. They have information overload, which is absolutely relevant. But when Gartner did a bit of research back in 2018, what they found is 87% of customers think that brands need to put more effort into a seamless experience. And that's where areas such as customer loyalty, customer experience, customer journey, customer success experience have all come into play. Because these methodologies, these tool sets are starting where customers are starting to look at this and embed this into customer retention strategies, but also into transformation projects as well. But it's just got harder now than ever before. We are in an unknown environment, and at present, change is definitely the new normal. According to a recent Ipsos Mori report, 88% of people expect changes in terms of how we consume, use different various services, how we spend our money, both within a personal and a professional capacity. Therefore, this is definitely a time where reinvention is the key word. Reinvention about how we're reinventing businesses, processes, transformation and changes. We're already seeing it right now, but it's just going to get bigger. And so change is there, but change will bring immense opportunities and transformation. So my name's Arti Patel, and I'm delighted to have this speaker slot. I've been in the technology sector for over 8 years, and I'm currently leading a customer success practice within the commercial and long tail setting. So within the next couple of minutes, what I do want to do is take you through some insights that I'm currently using, but some insights that I've learned, I've seen of what's happening in the industry. And actually, you know what? Let's use this as a discussion board, because I'd love to see what other people are doing out there and see where the synergies are, and almost grow this into a subject, because it's something so relevant, especially in this space. So let's take a step back and reflect on what customer success is. Ultimately, customer success is about loyalty. Every company wants loyal customers. We need to have these loyal customers, and moving them from intellectual loyalty to emotional loyalty is definitely the name of the game. I also believe it's a hybrid of traditional ideas from account management, technical support, sales, marketing. It's bringing all these functions together. But then if we look at the growth mindset or the long tail market space, that's one of the most hardest areas. And I think many of you that are in this space will realize, because you're touching multiple customers in a digital space, but it's worth it. And if it's done right, it can definitely produce high revenue growth and market share into certain areas, as well as existing areas. But what's the key? What's the key to growth long tail market? For me, and what I've read and what I've observed and my experience and listening to the experts out there, data. I know we all talk about data, but in this space, in a totally digital space, it's the data that can work if you make it work for you. So if you're using the right data point to that customer once that deal has been done, and when the customer's going through adoption, implementation, you're providing them information about same industry use cases, same functionality in terms of what other industries have done, peers have done. You're making that relevant. You're making it resonate. You're basically supporting the customer to make sure that they don't go through the same mistakes that other people might have. And that's all this will lead to building that trust and in turn, loyalty. So let's take a step back. And let's look at and try and understand, what is this customer journey? When we do this, what we're doing is we're learning about that customer experience. So from the time that they understand the need and they consider a purchase, then they're working towards buying a product or service. The whole process needs to be as simple, clear, and efficient as possible. But in so many cases, it's not. And I'm guilty of it. I know many customers are guilty, many companies are guilty of it. But it's all about this seamless experience and why these methodologies have come into play. It's about ensuring that the customer has this flawless experience across all these buying touch points. Because when a customer is satisfied, they're going to be low, they're whole lower in cost to serve. But there's also a higher potential to take this customer and move them to becoming a loyal customer. So the buying journey, as we know, begins by finding the need. And then you almost have how the need is generated through attraction. So, you've got various marketing campaigns, various digital campaigns, and all this is used to grab the attention. The next phase is around the discovery, where customers are looking for a solution to achieve their outcome. They gather the information, educate themselves, and they're evaluating different choices. Then the selection process comes in place. Once they know that they can meet, that the product or service meets their quantifiable return on investment, it works for them, the sale is landed. And this is the point where customer success really comes into play. Because this is, once the customer success team is engaged, it's about achieving maximum utilization of the features and solutions that have been purchased. So it's so important that we understand the adoption process, and it's fully adopted in terms of the functionality of the product or service or the offering, and then the outcomes at this stage are realized. Because at this phase, expanding opportunities can also present themselves, because we realize, customers will realize that actually I need to expand my footprint, or I need to upgrade my investment. And that's where putting clever packages, putting clever solutions definitely come into play. If the customer experience is positive and the outcomes have been achieved, then renewal is definitely in the sight. And that is definitely something that can be secured. But the challenge is here, and the question that I pose is, how do we adopt these in a totally digital footprint? How do we make these totally relevant to a market space of thousands to thousands of customers? It's easier said than done, right? So let's look at what that journey looks like. On average, most customers have 85% different touch points in a 12-month period. And if we look at the whole cycle, it's totally digital. Every single touch point is digital. But as I've mentioned earlier, relevance, new ideas, use cases that have been done, not making the same mistakes, those are key, because the more that we're personal to the customer in terms of adoption, in terms of utilization, value generation, the more that we're providing these value-based material touch points, the more that will be remembered. And this is where trust leads into value, leads into loyalty, because we're that trusted, we are supporting that customer with the right material at the right time. But before any activity commences, are we talking to the right customer? How do we know that we're talking to the right customer? So using some form of segmentation model, and I tend to adopt the segmentation model that's been written by Dan Steinman and Nick Mehta on customer success. And what I've actually, what I've seen and what I've done is flipped it on the other side. Because essentially, this is key to any activity that's focused in terms of serving customers based on their priorities and usage. But to flip it on its side, you're putting digital at the forefront of this. because the automation, the digital touch point is the heart of this segmentation. That's the heart of the activity. It's around driving traffic through automated channels. And it's about having that conversation virtually. So various good marketing tools, software will definitely enable this. It's about utilizing this and taking this for interaction. But then if we move into then it's about finding about the low touch model, the low touch customers. And so for me, when I think about low touch and who in a long tail space fits into that, it's essentially customers that I'm working with who I'm just in and out, almost like a just in time model, where, where the customer knows that when they need help, they can reach out on the various platforms and tools. But I'm there, I'm providing the right information they need. I'm looking for different early warning signs if the adoption or the implementation or the usage is not right. And I'm providing them the relevant how-to content. Ask the expert content. And again, going back to what I was saying around relevance in industries, use cases, value generation, that is essentially the content that is being provided. But it's very much when you need me, just in time. And then using the same principle, you've got your high touch customers. And that could vary, right? That varies on the numbers that you want. But essentially using the same concept as any high touch marketing model or any other high touch methodology. Essentially, you've isolated those customers that you know are going to be the next generation or going to be the value generation within your business unit or for the company. And it's the things like the health checks, the QBRs, the extra support, but all delivered virtually, all delivered to a customer in a seamless experience. So tools such as Zoom Video, Loom Video, SaaS customer intelligence tools, all these different companies and all these different CRM tools really help with that engagement. And how you segment, there's various methodologies. I tend to look at what's on top of mind from the business and where renewal value plus potential to spend are some areas that I've used, but equally, and in other cases, I've also used just revenue spend. So what that criteria looks like, that's down to you. And then in terms of the metrics and the methodologies you put down, it's given, it's the revenue growth, but also I also find from a customer success perspective is looking at that churn rate. That's absolutely important. So once we know where the customer sits into which segmentation model, the tools that we use is absolutely key to keep some form of consistency. And so what I want to do now is just take you through some insights where almost like I call it a toolkit, because these are forums, methods, tools that actually work and actually, if done right, can help deliver and scale that engagement. So let's begin with the first one, user communities. These have definitely changed the game and are a perfect platform for customers to offer advice and respond to queries. Online communities provide a transparent platform to interact and share best practices with each other. This is where customer success teams can easily go into that and make announcements on the community. They can make sure users are kept up to date. They can look at various product changes or new features, but also it decreases the likelihood of the customer having to get in touch with you. And sometimes that is a laborious process. So almost we're doing the customers a favor, going back to seamless experience. So for example, one of the ways where if, for example, a new product's been sent out or if a bug's been identified and various hotfixes have been put out, on these user communities, utilizing things like voting buttons or voting functions is absolutely powerful, because from that, I'm getting a consensus from the customer to say, actually, this is working, this is not working. And what this almost does is reduces pressure on technical support because it allows users to be more self-sufficient and help each other. Once I know what the consensus is, I'm pushing out that material. What's more, Online communities foster the feeling that customers are part of this interactive, interesting group that allows them to learn from each other and drive that engagement. Encouraging what we call ambassadors or champions is almost a fantastic way of utilizing and pushing out the brand message. And that all helps drive that loyalty. And in research done by an Infoland community, what they found is customers that respond to 40% of community questions, they almost greatly benefit from your own internal support team, because whilst they're improving the service levels and the overall user experience is being positive, in a nutshell, what they're doing is they're reducing 25 to 50% of the support tickets that are hitting the team, because we're answering the questions one step ahead, and almost that's being generated between that user community. The next one is active learning. It's about gathering all the fantastic content created within the online community and using that to fuel your knowledge base. So it's almost like where you look at your customer success content that you've created, all the best answers, best practices, but then you're also utilizing what the conversations are within the community, what are customers saying that actually are making it real, and bringing those two together. You've got a huge, powerful engine and a huge, powerful of questions and answers that you can go out there and push out. And again, make that relevant, making it relevant to industry, making it relevant to use cases, making it relevant to so many different areas. But that is, again, going back to the seamless experience and making the data relevant. User insights is absolutely fundamental to this, because this helps identify gaps in customer success content, and also it supports with support content, which is needed most by the user base. So insights, once you go into these communities and you actually find that there are stumbling blocks in product development, there's stumbling blocks in terms of adoption, usage, taking that content and almost working with marketing support, technical support, product development, what you're doing is you're almost starting to create this continuous loop. And that's huge, because that can, if done right, that can almost be predictive and proactive. Because when you know that these messages are coming into play, you are one step ahead, you're going into that forum, you're taking out the key areas and you're putting it back into another feedback loop. And that's where some of these insights in terms of these communities, these self-service tools are absolutely huge. If there's any complex questions or complex development areas, taking that to support team, taking that to the expert resources in the business, arranging one-to-one sessions. If it is a low-touch customer, if it's your high-touch customer, arranging those ask the expert areas. What you're doing is you're looking at what's happening right now, going back to that seamless experience. And it's building that trust. It's saying, hey, listen, we're here. And finally, if we look at the results, absolutely revenue generation, less churn rate are absolutely some of the metrics that are recommended and most companies like myself are adopting. But there are other areas such as, engagement, because if we look at the most important factor is customer engagement, because once customers experience that real partnership, they really feel listened to. And that's when they tend to share their ideas and opinions and experiences. And that can then be, again, turned into development of a product, development of a service, even new revenue generation ideas. But it's about inspiring customers to talk. It's about inspiring customers to have that open forum. And it's inspiring in terms of your own company to listen to that customer. This both drives, as I mentioned earlier, revenue and continuous improvement. A recent study by Insided on online support and self-services areas, what they found is 54% of companies want to transform their engagement. So it's utilising these types of tactics to make a real self-service but we're going in there and providing research that definitely supports. Additionally, another bit of research done by Insided showed their communities showed up to 70% of peer-to-peer support, much higher than the average of 50%. So not only does this increase customer engagement, it also allows customers to self-serve more effectively as users begin to help each other, share best practices, inspire each other. It also helps identify the most and least popular success content, and that helps build your success methodology and your success criteria. It's closely monitoring these different customer success engagements that can make sure that the success content is kept up to date and is relevant. Because the last thing you want to do is go through something that's been written back in 2001 and it has no relevance to the market space. So, fundamentally, engagement is not just simply about making sure that we're answering customer questions or answers and we're just being there, but it's providing that personal touch to your product or service that builds that trust and keeps users coming. Inspire. When we consider acquiring new customers, it's 5 times more expensive than retaining the existing ones. It's clear why so many companies are now transforming and focusing on driving customer engagement and utilizing self-service tools and improving volume sales. This is a winning strategy. The more customers we engage with, the more users, the more likely they're to be self-sufficient and the more successful, meaning you can scale, connect to more users, which will lead to less churn and higher revenue rates, but you're building trust and loyalty. But all that happens is through the data. It's through having the right insights and they're looking at the right actions and providing the right relevant content in a continuous feedback loop through engineering. But it's utilizing those virtual communities. And these are virtual communities that, it's not only what you provide as a portal. So I've also gone out and looked at independent resources. So for example, Gartner, if you're in the technology space, or product reviews, if you're in hospitality, tools such as TripAdvisor, those types of tools, going in there and seeing what customers are reviewing, what they're talking about your brand behind your back. And this is where we want that positive experience. If we can see that the positive messages are going out there, that's again one metric to show, is this working? So I'm coming to the end of the webinar, and I'm really delighted that that you found this interesting, hopefully. So thank you for taking the time out to listening to my thoughts on customer success and growth. And I hope you found this content useful. What I want to do is make sure that this subject matter just doesn't stay here on a content. I've put some communication channels. Let's try and have this discussion outside of this. Let's continue the discussion, because I'd love to see what your thoughts, opinions are, what others are putting out there, and actually looking at areas that we can almost utilize within different industries and having that peer-to-peer support. So thank you very much, and look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.